Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm from weather forecast. In this forecast, we have an active weather pattern to talk about, so let's get right into it. We're first going to be taking a look at our precipitation trends across the country today. And we're going to fast forward a couple days here because there's not really a lot going on from now really until Tuesday. But come Tuesday, we're going to start to watch some Gulf moisture start to affect areas of the Arklatex region. This is just going to be some light rain showers. Really nothing more than that. Maybe some sprinkles here and there. Meanwhile, over here in the West Coast, we will likely have an atmospheric river impacting portions of central northern California into portions of the California mountains, and some snow showers affecting areas like North Dakota. Then as we take this into the day on Wednesday, though, this storm system is going to begin to strengthen here. You can see over here in Montana how we'll likely have some more heavier snow embedding here, and especially in the mountains. I think we could potentially see blizzard conditions in northwestern Wyoming. That'll be something to keep an eye on there. Meanwhile, this storm system continues to get going across the eastern half of the United States with some more rain showers and maybe even some freezing rain on Wednesday morning for areas of the Ohio Valley. That'll be something to keep an eye on there. But notice as we head into the day on Thursday that this storm system strengthens even more, guys. I mean, we're talking about really heavy freezing rain from northeastern Pennsylvania all the way into portions of New York. Meanwhile, we're dealing with the potential for some thunderstorms across portions of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, back up into portions of eastern Ohio, and even western PA could see some gustier thunderstorms there. Some of these could be on the severe side, guys, so we need to keep that in mind, especially as we head into Illinois, Indiana, as well as especially the central and southern portions of Ohio as we head in towards that Thursday time frame. Then as we take this in towards Thursday evening, you can see here we have another area that's going to get going here across portions of the upper portion of the Great Lakes here with a cold front extending down. More thunderstorms. Some of these, again, could be on the severe side from Kentucky, southern Ohio, maybe even central Ohio over to West Virginia. And then as we take this into the day on Friday, notice how we begin to quiet down a little bit before we see our next storm system building as we head in towards the weekend here around February 8th. Uncertain what this one will do, but it definitely shows that we could have more rain across portions of the Ohio Valley and even a snowstorm potentially starting to get going for the Plain States back into portions of the Midwest regions, with maybe some thunderstorms breaking out on the eastern end of that low. That's going to be something to keep another close eye on. Then as we take this in towards Sunday, February 9th, we just have apparently a full-blown winter storm for areas of the Northeast here. The question is, will this look like this exactly? It's probably not, all right? It's probably going to look similar to this. We're probably going to have a winter storm somewhere in this area around the I-95 corridor. But the question is what track this low takes still and basically what the impacts will be. So we really don't know what's going to happen with that storm really until we get closer towards that time frame. Meanwhile, we will likely be watching another storm system as we head in towards early next week, or well, a couple weeks from now, actually, 9 days from now or something like that. You can see here, this model likes to show a snowstorm starting to break out from Ohio all the way back to Texas. Meanwhile, we have some thunderstorms where they should be this time of year finally in Texas and Arkansas with some rain showers elsewhere and maybe some icy mix. This storm is very uncertain, guys. This is 246 hours out, so the timing track and everything will change with this. Regardless, though, there are many big storm systems that are going to get going over the course of the next couple weeks across the country. And like I said, as we go out further and further, each storm system will become more and more uncertain with time. But you can definitely tell that the pattern's going to get much more active across a lot of areas for the United States as we head into the next couple weeks. And taking a look basically at our jet stream across the United States, basically telling us and determining basically where our troughs and ridges are. So let's get right into it again, taking it into next week because there's really not much going on. Up until then, you can see big ridge developing across the southern half and central half of the United States as we get that warm Gulf moisture to be spread northward with a screaming jet stream pretty much for a lot of people across the country. And then as you can see, once we head into Wednesday afternoon and then eventually into Thursday, notice how that storm system is going to start building here with some severe weather across this area and a big old winter storm in this area. So meanwhile, we continue to have that ridge pumping in some warmer air and moist air from the Gulf of America. And then as we take this into Friday, the 7th time frame, you can see how we get a little bit of a trough across the Great Lakes and Northeast, but that won't last long. Saturday, the 8th, we have another storm system that's going to get going again. The question is the track. And then as we head in towards that Sunday, February 9th time frame, it appears we will have a screaming jet stream across much of the country here. And that ridge will begin to retreat. A trough will begin to replace that here as we get colder air into the United States around this time frame, which means your storm track's going to be displaced southward. And then as we head in towards that Monday, February 10th time frame, this is when we can see potentially a winter storm for these areas, an ice storm for these areas, and severe weather for these areas. All right, again, track is everything with this, but it appears that there could be some sort of big storm system that rides this area as we head in towards the next couple weeks here. And then as we take this beyond that, things become very uncertain what the jet stream does. However, it does appear that for the snow lovers in the Great Lakes region, that there's going to be several instances where we get big dips in the jet stream with Arctic air spilling in, meaning that the storm track would be displaced all the way down to the Ohio Valley and those areas like that, meaning anywhere on the northern end of the lows would get the snow out of that. So definitely a lot of opportunities for snow over the course of the next couple weeks for the Great Lakes region. But obviously first we do have to get through a couple instances where we get a northerly push of that jet stream, which means we will be dealing with more mild conditions here first rather than Arctic air. But the definite thing is that as we head in towards the 2nd and 3rd week of February, that appears to change for a lot of people across the United States. And taking a look now at our temperature trends over the course of the next week or so, you can see obviously since we had that big push with the jet stream, we're going to have above average temperatures over the course of the next few days across the country here. Notice that these reds and oranges indicate at least 5-degree above average temperatures, but then when you get into these maroonish colors and even these beige colors, that's when you're talking about 15 to 20, even 25 degrees above average for your temperature departure. And that, my friends, is a cold front right here. In this blue across portions of the northern plains here. That's the reason of why I think we could have severe weather in this region as we head in towards late week. But aside from the point here, let's get obviously into our temperatures here. Notice how we begin to see that warm air starting to retreat back. It begins to get forced back as we head in towards the late week. And then as we head in towards next weekend, it begins to redeem itself. And then here comes the Arctic air into the United States as we head in towards next week. All right, you can see Tuesday, February 11th, I mean, you could see big blast of Arctic air. I mean, you could be talking about anywhere from 20 to 25 degree below average temperatures across this area, which will likely allow for dangerous cold to enter those areas. So definitely be mindful of that. And then as we take this beyond that, it appears that we're just going to continue to get more cold shots across the United States. But again, a lot of uncertainty remains how far south that cold air perhaps tries to make it. And now, guys, let's take a look at the reasoning behind the potential Arctic blast over the course of the next couple weeks here. Let's take a look at the stratospheric polar vortex. All right, and you can see here that we're already starting to deal with a little bit of a stratospheric warming event across that circled area. You can see those darker oranges there. Meanwhile, here's your polar vortex. It's kind of elongated, if you ask me, as we head in towards that midweek time frame here. As we take this in towards next week here, notice that this is Tuesday, February 4th. Notice how elongated the polar vortex is, guys. Again, this is in the stratosphere, but still you can see how elongated the polar vortex is. Watch what happens here with that orange as we head in towards middle to late week next week. We get a very strong SSW, all right, sudden stratospheric warming. All right, and that's going to shove the polar vortex out of its spot, which means that it's going to elongate more, but we're also going to have a Greenland ridge that is going to begin to build, all right? Or not a Greenland ridge, but you can see these areas here, we're going to see a big ridge start to build, and that's going to basically push the the polar vortex out of its place. It's basically like a train where you get that nudge there. So that's basically how it works. But you can see as we head in towards the second week of February that we really start to notice that stratospheric warming event taking place here. And that's really just going to continue to push the polar vortex out of place. All right, and it might start affecting areas of the United States come this time frame. All right, this is when it's going to start elongating even more. And notice here that we have two circle areas, which means areas of low pressure. Notice that this could be indicating that the polar vortex could be breaking in half. All right, this is definitely uncommon, but it definitely isn't unheard of here. Just like thunderstorms as far north as the Great Lakes, the stratospheric polar vortex breaking into two pieces is definitely not unheard of. So, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on as we head in towards that time frame. Because come by the end of the model run here, I mean, there have been model discrepancies on the intensity of the cold air, but you can see, notice how this ridge just takes over the Arctic Circle. All right, and you can see there's one part of the polar vortex, and then there's another part of the polar vortex down here in the United States around February 17th. All right, what this could mean for us here in the United States is it's going to get very cold. All right, like dangerously cold for a lot of people. Likewise, we saw the polar vortex break in half in 2022 of February. We saw the polar vortex unleash into the United States in 2018, 2019. So it's going to be more like those years as it looks right now. The polar vortex literally falling into the United States. All right. Again, this is the stratosphere, but you can see it's already going to be very cold. So that the surface, that's probably going to be translated down to the surface at times. But the main point I'm telling you guys here is that something interesting is happening with the polar vortex, and it's going to cause big cold air outbreaks across the country over the course of the next couple weeks. And you can see, taking a look even at our snowfall totals across the United States here, you could see, like I said before, how I drew out the storm track potential here. This lines up perfectly with what we were looking at here, with a pretty decent signal for winter storms from the Gulf Coast back up into portions of the Northeast. or I'm sorry, not the Gulf Coast, New Mexico and Texas, all the way back into the Northeast. All right, so that would mean like areas like Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania into the Northeast would see bigger snow events than you really haven't seen this winter so far. So that'll be nice for you guys for sure. And then there's another snow signal with those clipper systems perhaps over here for a couple days across portions of the mountains there. We mentioned the potential for blizzard conditions across Wyoming. So that'll be something to keep an eye on there. And then atmospheric rivers causing really 100 inches of snow for the Sierra Nevadas back up into portions of the northern California mountains here. Again, 100 inches of snow, definitely not out of the question there. And like I said, here I'm going to print out again. You can see like this area here especially. I think you're going to see a lot more snow events than you have seen recently. And you can see over here, we're also going to start seeing more snow events as well. And taking a look at our total rainfall accumulations across the country over the course of the next couple weeks here, you can see a lot of precipitation from the Northeast back into portions of the Gulf Coast region. Again, you can see the storm systems will track something like this with the snow on the northern end and the rain and even the freezing rain events in the middle wherever those lows track. I think these areas, or I'm sorry, let me do that again. I think these areas have a pretty good bet at seeing some pretty potent ice storms over the course of the next couple weeks. Of course, after that ridge and over here in these areas, I definitely think you have the potential of seeing some pretty big snows. Likewise, we looked at back on the last slide. Over the course of the next couple weeks here. And we could have some flooding issues across portions of the Tennessee region, the Kentucky region. Regardless, though, guys, flooding or not, it's going to be very active in this circle region. And the focus for the most action over the course of the next couple weeks. And you can see that the Climate Prediction Center kind of agrees that the first week of next month is going to be pretty warm for a lot of the southern and eastern tier of the United States. And meanwhile, we have above average precipitation. This is definitely what we were looking at before. And taking a look here at our 8 to 14 day outlook here, you can see how we have likely above average precipitation for a lot of the country. That's what we looked at. And meanwhile, you can see the colder air starting to enter the United States and the above average temperatures continuing far south like we've been seeing here. And taking it all the way out 3 weeks, 3 to 4 outlook here, you can see at least the Climate Prediction Center has at least some confidence in above average temperatures for a lot of the southern and eastern United States, with some more cold air events up here across portions of the northern tier. And then as we take this basically taking a look at our hazardous weather outlooks here, you can see, risk of hazardous temperatures here from February 8th to the 14th. Pretty good bet up here in the northern tier. This might be expanded southward into these areas as we head in towards that time frame. And then, taking a look at our precipitation here, you can see risk of heavy rain, flooding rains all the way as far north as the Ohio Valley. And then as you take a look here at snow outlooks here, you can see, like I said, we imprinted before that we could have some pretty big winter storms in those circled areas. All right, that's 2-8 to the 14th. All right, and taking a look at our wind hazards here, not a lot of wind expected here. As of right now, they might add more areas here, which I have a feeling they will, because because if you looked, the isobars were very close together in this general area over the course of the next couple weeks. So this is an area I would say to watch out for strong winds over the course of the next couple weeks. But obviously the Climate Prediction Center knows best, and we will need to continue to monitor to see what they do. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for you today. That was a lot of information. Hope you guys got something out of that. And have a great rest of your day. Make sure you click the like button down below. Click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any important weather updates from me. And subscribe, and have a great rest of your weekend.